What is this, number 5? 6?
6, I think.
6? My
which is
God.
ridiculous. This is number 6, and we're doing a movie called 7.
What?
We fucked up. Welcome to the Rewind Classic Movies podcast about 80s and 90s movies we probably saw as kids, even if we weren't old enough to fully understand the adult themes. I'm GB, and with me is my co-host AJ.
Hey, I am indeed AJ. And today we're going to be looking at a film which is basically two detectives who are playing a deadly game of Guess the Deadly Sin with a serial killer who really loves thematic consistency. It's called 7 with a 7 in the middle of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure that works for me. It's about the only thing that doesn't work in this movie for me. Right, 7 was made on a budget of around $30 million, and despite average audience test screenings and poor predictions for its success because of the adult themes and violence, it went on to make almost $330 million when it was released in 1995, becoming, this is brilliant, the 7th most popular film of the year.
Wow.
It is the second film from director David Fincher, whose directorial feature debut was the disappointing Alien 3 just a couple of years before. A film he said no one hates more than him, and he's since disowned. 7 would relaunch his career after a period where he retreated to making commercials and music videos, and he'd go on to direct movies such as Fight Club, Panic Room, Benjamin Button, The Social Network, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and Gone Girl. It also didn't Jesus Christ. It also didn't do too bad for Brad Pitt's future either, while the ending of the movie has been named as one of the most shocking in cinema history. AJ, tell me about your history with this movie.
I don't honestly remember when I first saw it, but I know for sure I was over 18. I've only seen it the once, and it scarred me for life.
Oh.
I remember you suggesting that I watch this film, and I thought, oh shit, I have to watch this film again. And I really didn't like watching the first time around because I remember so much about it, because it shocked me. It did, and I think it did a lot of people. I really didn't want to have to watch it again for this podcast, so thanks. When I saw it originally, I wasn't really into the nuances of filmmaking. I hadn't really got into cinematography and filmmaking and all that sort of jazz at this point. So upon rewatching it now, I have come to realise why people like it and why it's more than, just about gratuitous violence and all that sort of stuff. It is a fantastically well-made filmed. I also didn't watch it with either of my kids, like I have been watching the other stuff with my son quite a lot, because knife dildo. How do you explain that one?
That's more than tits and cocaine, is it, this one?
That is a little bit more than tits and cocaine. Yes. Yes.
It is a tough watch, but I absolutely love this movie. I don't think I saw it in 95 because I would have been 14. And one of my sons is that age, and I wouldn't want him watching it. Not for a long time, to be honest with you. I probably saw it when I was about 20. And I've always thought it was just a perfect movie. Every frame is perfect. Everyone in it is perfect. And I just love the way that David Fincher makes movies, which is, it's a bit old school. There's a lot of tripod shots. There's hardly any obvious CGI. He just lets the actors do the work in the scene. It is just wonderful.
No, fair enough.
But how did you feel? Was it as disturbing to you now as you thought it would be?
It wasn't as bad, but I think that's because I knew what was coming. I mean, everyone knows what's coming. And, if they hadn't...
That makes it worse for me.
Oh, fair enough. That's interesting. Okay. I mean, I was fully prepped. I knew what was coming. I knew I wasn't going to be happy watching it. I knew I wasn't going to enjoy the process in any way, shape or form. And so it wasn't as bad because, you know what happens. And I'm presuming that everyone's seen what happens. What was quite
Spoilers.
funny, I did say, I said at some point, I shouted in the kitchen or something, "What's in the box?" And my son decided to repeat that at school, which was very funny. And his teacher was like, "Have you seen that film?" And "No, Daddy's doing it for a podcast next week." So.
And he just randomly shouts, "What's in the box?" in the house.
Yes.
I do say "What's in the box?" a lot. Anytime I see a box or someone mentions a box, "What's in the box?"
It's classic, isn't it? It is a classic line. It is a classic line.
I hinted there about that. I think the rewatch makes it worse, and that's something I want to talk about later. So I will hold off talking about that for now. Let's talk about the start of this movie.
Definitely.
This movie. This movie opens with no big drama. Like, there's no music. There's hardly anything. There's just a bloke getting ready to go out calmly.
Yeah.
It's a long tripod shot. It's like, I think I counted it was like 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Nothing. And then like every shot is locked off until he arrives at this crime scene at about a minute in. It's beautiful. It's boring, but I cannot help being drawn in by it. And it's just, again, it's locked off when we see him later in bed at home. And normally in this bit of the podcast, we'd be talking about a big dramatic event that kicks off a movie. But even when they get to the first crime scene, that's almost downplayed. I mean, the title sequence that comes in at, I think it's like 5 minutes in, that is the loudest, most dramatic thing to happen in the movie so far.
Yeah.
Even then, after that, it goes back to another calm bloke getting dressed. What did you think of the start of this?
It's true. I mean, you've got this establishing scene of this guitar of this guy that we come to know as Detective Somerset. Calm, organised. He's got everything lined up on the table, ready to put on his person. You instantly know he's a cop because he's got his badge there. He's got a flick knife. He's got like a nice little handkerchief, a pen. It really establishes his organisation, what he does as a character, how he is as a character. And he's getting himself ready. There's a metronome in the corner. And then, bam, you cut to a dead body lying on the floor, blood oozing out. It's just a sort of another day on the job. It's just another body to investigate. There's no big dramas, like you say. I really love the look, son chat they have when they leave the building. It's a single shot, and they're sort of they're walking down the pavement or sidewalk, if you will, and it's a really, really long single shot, if you will, and Brad Pitt is standing to his right. And Brad Pitt is constantly sort of having to dodge the passers-by which are coming, whereas Detective Somerset is walking straight, quite relaxed, quite slowly, and not having to move for people. You can see the dynamic between the two right there in the sort of first 5 minutes. It's great.
Pairing and the chemistry is fantastic. It's kind of abrasive but calm and mostly respectful. And the contrast between how they get ready, like we were saying, like Pitt pulls on this tie that's still tied and just runs a hand over his hair, and Somerset has everything laid out. And then later at murder number 2, we see Mills' like gun holster isn't even on straight, and he just like throws his jacket in the corner of the room of the crime scene. They're so different. And then later on again, when Somerset comes over to their apartment, Mills is like, "Do you want a beer?" And he's like, "No, wine, please." God, that was a terrible impression of Morgan Freeman. And I love, he gives him this wine, and it's in a very tall glass, almost a pint glass. And Morgan Freeman just puts it down. He's got his head in the documents, carries on reading it. And it's not till later when the train goes past and he tries to keep the drink stable that he sort of does this brilliant, subtle double take of like, what the fuck has he given me? The way these characters are sort of defined through very subtle, real things is absolutely brilliant.
It's funny, we used to put our ties on like that at school. We used to put them over our heads and sort of do them up because we couldn't be bothered to tie a tie, No, it does. It shows the characters brilliantly.
Yeah, it's very much about class and maturity in a way versus Mills' chaos and youth, I suppose.
Yeah.
Right, but let's talk about how this movie came to be, because this is quite an interesting story.
Yeah.
And it doesn't involve the usual studio rewrites and all that kind of stuff. A little bit, sort of. The movie happened because David Fincher was accidentally sent the script. Originally, it had been optioned by a different studio, I think, and was massively rewritten to fit the vision of Jeremiah Chechik, I think his name is, who directed, of all movies, Christmas Vacation. Can you imagine the director of Christmas Vacation going, "Yeah, I'm going to do 7"?
I don't think I know Christmas Vacation or have ever heard of it.
Are you serious?
No, seriously.
Chevy Chase?
Oh, is it a Chevy Chase one? Is it? Oh, it's one of those.
Griswold's.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, in that case, I've probably seen it. Has it got Uncle Buck, that guy in it? John Candy?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
That's on the Christmas one for December, isn't it?
Sounds like it.
Anyway, so the script was written by a guy called Andrew Kevin Walker, who wrote it while he worked at Tower Records in New York. And he had to basically completely rewrite it and tamed it down and lost the controversial ending for the Christmas Vacation guy. And to cut a long story short, it found its way to David Fincher. And when he told them that he was interested in making it, they realise they sent him the old one. And they're like, oh, no, we fucked up. But Fincher's like, this is the only version I'm interested in making. Yeah. I don't want to make your Christmas Vacation version with Chevy Chase. And the writer was over the moon because he didn't really want to be the guy that wrote the other version. And he said it was only because Fincher, Pitt, Freeman and Spacey all fought for that darker tone and that controversial ending that the studio listened.
It comes to something when the actors are vying for that as well, that they want that ending. And it does make sense. Nice mug, by the way.
Available now at our store, rewindclassicmovies.com.
I love the fact that Andrew Walker, he'd moved from basically the country in Pennsylvania to New York City, and he wrote the story about his time in this new, dark, depressing city. He actually said, if I hadn't lived there, I probably wouldn't have written Seven. And it really doesn't work well for the New York City Tourism Board, does it? Does it always rain like this in New York City, or like in Blade Runner, or indeed Cornwall?
Yeah. Or anywhere in the UK at the moment.
True.
They never say where the city is, though, do they, in the movie?
No. It's another one of those classic generic city USA kind of thing, bit like Big Trouble in Little China, or...
Well, no, I think they did say where it was. I or you just didn't notice. Yeah.
Classic.
There was a rumour, not a rumour, it's one of these fucking fan theories that goes around and people try and think they're clever and put together the pieces and go, oh, this is actually Gotham City. And it's like, if you really want to think that, why not?
Gotham
Because then they try and tie in that Morgan Freeman is playing the character that he goes on to play in The Dark Knight and all that sort of stuff, Lucius Fox. And it's just the most tenuous, desperate, grabbing for anything kind of stuff that fans tend to do in between masturbating in their own feces.
Fucking hell.
Which I think that's a line from this movie, isn't it? I think he says that to John Doe.
God, I don't actually know. I don't remember.
Let's hope it is.
That's pretty brutal. Yeah, to be honest, I mean, I've watched Batman and I'm aware of it, but I must admit I don't know too much about it. But I know that the city is dark and grimy and full of crime and raining.
I'm going to put that on a poster. I've watched Batman. I'm aware of it. I'm going to mention Batman again in a bit.
All right,
we'll come back to it. Let's talk about Morgan Freeman.
Yes,
I'll go first.
What a guy.
I think in this movie he is great. However, I do wonder if the real Morgan Freeman that everyone knows and loves detracts a bit from what the character's meant to be, because we're told several times throughout this movie that he's kind of disliked by a lot of people. He's not married because everyone finds him disagreeable, is what he says. All his colleagues seem to find him annoying and odd. And then when Tracy tells him that she's pregnant and confides in him, there's no congratulations. He's just like, I'm not the guy.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a git.
And you're right. Everyone loves Morgan Freeman. He's like this wonderful sort of teddy bear kind of character. And I think you're right. You've got
I'd love to be able to do an impression of Morgan Freeman. I can't do it.
That's an amazing Nelson Mandela. Well, not amazing, but it's more like Nelson Mandela, who I believe that he played in Invictus, which was a great film. It's interesting that the studio is worried about casting a black detective, as it might be a derivative of Lethal Weapon, which was released like 8 years before.
What?
I know.
Sorry,
and they're worried.
One black detective every decade, please.
I know. I mean, surely enough water had flown under that racial bridge by that point. It's mental. Like, what?
No, keep them as the criminals. We can't have them as detectives.
Yeah.
One every 10 years is enough.
It's nuts.
What is going on?
That wouldn't happen now, surely. You wouldn't even question it, I don't think.
You'd like to think not.
You'd hope not, right?
I mean, he makes a great detective.
He does. He's methodical and he looks and questions everything, you know. He's got that kind of character.
There's a lot of psychological stuff from him as well. There's a lot of wisdom. And he's clearly a learned man. You've
got it. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I think you've just hit the proverbial nail on the head. He has and oozes wisdom.
God, I wish we could have that.
I know.
Do you know what? There's a massive gap in the show notes here, which the words that are missing are Brad Pitt, Detective Mills.
Yes.
I don't think either of us has anything to say about Brad Pitt, but he is brilliant in this movie.
He is great. He is great in this movie. It was his first sort of breakout role from the pretty boy model, lovely meet Joe Black kind of. Oh, I'll fall for this guy. You know, he's certainly suddenly playing a gritty detective. He's escaped that kind of typecast. I'm a nice looking kind of guy that you want to take home to meet your mother, to this kind of almost not stupid but sort of dumb beat kind of cop who's trying to make his mark in the world. Really gritty, shaved his, trademark hair.
Yeah, I was just trying to look at what his movies were before this.
Meet Joe Black.
California.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Interview with a Vampire. No, I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know, actually, if he was even in that.
Thelma and Louise. Anyway.
Famously in Friends, which was quite funny.
We've ditched his movie career and just jumped straight to a TV thing we know him from. Brilliant. I mean, Brad Pitt, he's going to go down as an absolute Hollywood legend, if not he isn't already. But in this movie, I think he's perfect. Him and Morgan Freeman are the perfect foils for each other.
Yes, I'll agree with that, absolutely.
Kevin Spacey. I'm not sure where we're at these days with Kevin Spacey.
I looked up.
Let's keep it to the movie.
I looked up where we are with Kevin Spacey, and as it stands, he's been acquitted of all the things which he was accused of being accused of.
Okay.
And
good. Does that mean we can say he's good in this movie?
Oh, it does. Guilty until proven... No, the other way around. Innocent until proven guilty.
Well, this society might be a nice Freudian slip there, AJ.
Absolutely. Innocent until proven guilty and all that sort of jazz. And also, I don't want any lawsuit against me for saying something wrong on the internet. So, yeah, he was good in this movie.
We get enough abuse for our opinions on movies. We don't need to venture into legalities and crime. But as of time of recording in 2025, Kevin Spacey, what a brilliant performance.
Absolutely. It was. He plays a sort of slimy sociopath, lecherous kind of guy really, really well.
I had a funny thought about this, and I was trying to... My initial note on this was, isn't Kevin Spacey incredible as this sort of lunatic, non-lunatic? I don't know how you'd almost direct him to create this performance, but actually, just playing devil's advocate, is Kevin Spacey brilliant in this movie, or is he just not doing very much and just sort of saying
just
lines?
Being...
Oh, no. Oh, reverse. We get... Uh-oh.
I thought he was fantastic.
There's no way we can put this in, even satirically.
No, I thought Kevin Spacey was very good in the film. Apparently, got him quite late. I think he was very expensive. I think his rates were quite high. Yeah, and they got an unknown into play. And I think they had him. I think they started shooting for about 5 weeks before they even cast him. And imagine filming for 5 weeks without one of the main leads, or even like knowing who the actor's going to be. And they had to get Brad Pitt in to negotiate his fee down, because I think Brad Pitt knew him or recommended him or something like that. And he filmed all of his scenes in 12 days.
I mean, he doesn't come in until like right at the last knockings, does he? Apart from some supposed little cameo moments where you're not
on the
meant to notice
stairs
him.
And what have you. Yeah, but I think 12 days. It makes sense, but it is that is quick, isn't it? It's a fortnight. That's it. You're done, in and out.
What I found really interesting about this is that part of the reasons he didn't arrive until sooner was there was these ongoing negotiations around what billing he would get, like on the posters and the credits and stuff. And the deal they came to was that they would keep him off of it all, and his name wouldn't be on the posters, wouldn't be advertised, but his name would be the first name that you see at the end of the movie, just to keep that suspense, because they didn't want people thinking, if Kevin Spacey's in this movie and we don't see him for X amount of time, he's clearly going to be the killer.
Obviously the killer.
I love that genius kind of thinking that it's not just about filmmaking, it's about marketing. And that's really clever. And it reminds me of what George Lucas did with Star Wars. Ding, 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 first mention. Where I think George Lucas at the time had to break away from the Directors Guild of America or something because he didn't want to put credits and titles at the start of the film and take people out of it. If you notice that, Star Wars starts with A Long Time, Galaxy Far, Far Away. You don't get Alec Guinness, Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford at the top of the movie. It's all saved to the end. And it's more immersive because of that.
Didn't ever really think about that or notice that. That's really interesting. That's a fair point. I like that. Yeah.
And when you go back and watch a lot of 80s movies now, like how many times you get a long song, for minutes over the intro with the titles, and you're like, do you want to fast forward this bit and get to the actual start of the movie?
Yeah.
That was revolutionary in its time.
It's true. No, it's true. It's a fair point. I had not thought about that, or indeed noticed it. I like it.
Leland Orser.
Yep. Who's he?
The name may not terrify you, but he does, because he's the guy with the knife dildo.
No.
Actor Leland Orser. He's the guy who's screaming in the police interview.
Oh, God.
I did it. I fucked her. He had a gun in my throat. That guy. Is that the most disturbing thing in this movie?
I hate this bit. I hate it. I mean, it's proper blood runs cold stuff. It's just... Oh, God. I mean, it's just... Because he's in the cell and all the lights are on. You've come from that nightclub and the glaring and the noise and the whoa to this cell and like... no.
I've seen this several times and even now, it's not pleasant.
You see the knife and everything, and it's like, oh God.
It makes me wonder, thinking back to our good friend, what was his name? Andrew Kevin Walker.
Oh yeah.
What's that guy been through?
I know.
To come up with this.
I know. What's he seen in his time in New York City? It obviously hasn't been all fun, has it? Let's be fair.
What are his dreams like?
God. It's so dark. Everything's so dark. There's another actor in this film, John C. McGinley. He's the SWAT team leader. And he's the classic, it's that guy who's in that film or that series whose name no one knows, including me. I mean, I have literally no idea what his name was because I said, it's that guy who's in that film.
He's the American Al Leong.
Yeah, exactly, right? He's in everything. I mean, he's in absolutely everything from a long time ago, if you look at his credit list. But I know him really well from his time in Scrubs. In fact, I think I said, he's that guy from Scrubs, if you remember that. Everyone was watching it at some point around about the same time as, like, Orange County. Yeah.
The one thing I have to say about John C. McGinley, is he has a brilliant contribution to this movie, which is at the end, after everything's happened and the helicopter's flying around.
Exactly what you're going to say, yeah.
He just says, somebody call somebody.
That's it, yeah.
Which was ad-libbed in post-production. They were just looping the dialogue and coming up with things to put in.
No way.
And he's like, I think Fincher said to him, you should say something about what's going on. Or it was something like that, and he just went, somebody call somebody. It's brilliant.
It is.
The perfect line.
It is. It's such a standout line. It is. I'm glad you brought it up. And I knew when you said it exactly what you were going to say. Yeah.
The last person I've got to talk about and casting before we need to move on is David Fincher, the director. I find him as fascinating as his movies. As a kid, he was neighbours with George Lucas.
Oh Christ! I can see where this is going.
Star Wars mentioned too, didn't he? He started out in movies as an assistant cameraman and matte painter or something, or matte painting photographer or something on Indiana Jones and Return of the Jedi, ding ding ding, before doing commercials for like Levi's, Nike, Pepsi, all that sort of stuff, and music videos. You might like this. He did Madonna's Vogue.
Yep.
He did Aerosmith's Janie's Got a Gun.
I love that song.
And George Michael's Freedom 90.
I didn't know that.
I mean, I could have a good playlist just out of David Fincher music videos.
Sure.
And I could talk about him all day long because there's so much I love about his method and his techniques, but we need to focus on 7.
Let's just not mention Alien 3, hey. There was a note I read where Gary Oldman turned down an unspecified role. And I want to know what role. Now, was it the Spacey role? Because I could see Gary Oldman doing that really, really well. But I could also see him doing Morgan Freeman's role really, really well.
Yes, I can, especially now he's done Slow Horses. I could see him doing that. But
I would have said,
especially if they were worried about a black detective.
Having seen him in Batman.
Oh, you're aware of it.
Oh, I'm aware of it. Yeah, that's about all I'm aware of because he was about the only decent actor in it, I think. Oh no, Christian Bale.
That's a better comparison. Yeah, he's all right. Gary Oldman, though, at that point, how old would he have been?
He wouldn't have been particularly old, 95. I don't even want to guess. I reckon
would he
late 30s.
Too old for the Somerset role?
I don't think so. No, I don't think he would have been too old.
He'd
been too
old
young, if anything.
Mills. Sorry, that's what I meant. Too young for the Somerset role,
Yeah,
but too old for the Mills role. About right for the serial killer role.
I reckon he would have made a good serial killer.
I want to find out more about that. Maybe I'll delve into that more in Fast Forward.
Oh.
Probably forget about it.
I was going to say, what is there to fast forward on this one? I mean,
well,
really?
I don't know. No, I do. There is a good one. There is a potential good one.
Oh, nice.
There's a couple of good ones.
You're going to have to tune in and find out.
I was worried. I'll tease it at the end. Stay tuned for what I'm going to tease about the next episode. Visuals, VFX, all this sort of stuff. We are, sadly, just found out about the loss of Gene Hackman and his wife and their dog.
Yes.
Which is very sad, but we won't dwell on it. However, there's a nice connection here, French connection, because David Fincher and the cinematographer Darius Conji, something like that, were inspired by films such as The French Connection and Clute. Now, I don't know Clute. I know you know The French Connection. I
know The French Connection very well. I remember seeing that when I was very, very young at a friend's house, and it was an 18, so we watched it, and I was blown away by it. And when I watched Seven again, I really immediately went to, God, that reminds me of The French Connection. The tone, the style, the filming, the grittiness. It really screamed French Connection to me.
What I love about this movie is the lighting. One of my big pet peeves in modern movies is they overlight everything.
Yep.
And it just doesn't look real, whereas older movies generally look authentic. And so in this, we go to the first murder, I think it is. It might be the second, I can't remember. It's where Mills and Somerset go together. And there's no light in the room. And they acknowledge it.
Yep.
And so the whole thing is lit by torches, and it's fucking moody, it's scary, it's kind of horrifying and creepy. And they only reveal the bits as they see them. So we, as an audience, are only seeing it at the same speed as them.
Yeah.
And there's no lights either when they go into John Doe's place. And I just love this kind of authentic vibe to everything. I think it looks fantastic.
It's got proper sort of shrine vibes in John Doe's place, hasn't it? It's all, you can expect to see all the candles around and things like that. And fits with the theme, obviously, but it does work so well.
And the colour grade on this as well, it's kind of muted. And this is where I was going to talk about Batman, because apparently it went on and influenced a lot of the later Batman movies. Like I think the one you saw.
Is that the Nolan trilogy?
No, that's the one that came after with Robert Pattinson.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it is kind of dark and moody. And there's actually, I was looking into it online, and there's quite a debate around 35mm restorations that are quite trendy at the minute, because everyone's kind of getting fed up of remasters and they want what it looked like originally in the theatres. What I looked into in this and found out was, truth is, nobody really knows what it kind of looked like, because the way that film and print is done is you get copies and things are done differently and all this kind of stuff. That's a big, summed up way of saying it. So we don't really know what it's meant to look like. As far as I can understand it, the latest 4K remaster David Fincher was heavily involved with, and he feels that's quite authentic. Regardless, I think they probably all look great, just slightly different colours.
Yeah.
We need to shift on. So let's go to music and sound effects and all that sort of stuff. Again, this is the same as the lighting. The music in a lot of the places in this movie is, I'm going to use the word practical, because the characters are hearing it as well.
Yep.
When Somerset's in the library, it's practical because we see someone turn it on, and this classy, calm music sort of makes the events more horrifying. And then when they find the blonde woman dead and they go down to the brothel with the red lights and everything, they complain that they can't turn off this horrific music and stuff.
Yeah.
I just love the way it immerses you in the movie and puts you in the world.
It's just there, and it's like, Christ, it's overloading. I was touching on it earlier with the lights and everything, and the colours and the neon, and like, whoa, God, I'm here in the scene and I don't want to be. You mentioned the library. It was Bach, Suite Number 3 in D major, which, is a very famous piece of classical music that everybody knows. It just fits so well with the researching of the Dante Allegro, Seven Circles of Hell, and he's flicking through the book and stuff, and you see the pictures, and it's just horrifying in every way. It's so...
in every way.
That's my take on it.
What I found interesting watching it this time, and kind of having half a podcast head on while watching it, is I thought to myself, is there a score in this movie? Because I don't think I first noticed that there was scored music in this until about 45 minutes in, when they go to arrest what they think is the killer initially. And you actually have some scored movie music. Mm-hmm. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I picked up on the Nine Inch Nails song over the opening credits, which is one of my favourite songs anyway. It's a remix, admittedly, of Closer, which is...
What does that mean, a remix?
It's not...
How is it different to the original?
It's not the original. So I can, I'm saying it's a remix because it's not the original Closer. It's been changed a lot.
More drums or something, like techno-y, or
a little more.
I'm showing you up now. This is a bit, you said you like Nine Inch Nails, and now you're like, I don't fucking know what.
It's not the original track. It's been reworked and remixed, and I don't know how or by who. I just know it's.
Thank you for explaining what remix means.
It's just been changed from the original. It's been remixed. But no, Closer's a great song. But what I'm trying to get to here, fucking partner, is it's dirty and it's industrial. It fits. It does. It fits. Nine Inch Nails music is disturbing in places. It's not comfortable music. It's not I'm going to relax and listen to some Nine Inch Nails. And maybe some people do, and that's fine, but I don't. I like.
You know what happened
last
time you said that you don't listen to music? We got a torrent of abuse because you didn't like the bloody Blade Runner soundtrack.
I did. I said I'm not going to listen to it in my car. I haven't actually listened to it in my car since, actually, but I must do that.
People went mad. They went, I listened to it in my car. Anything more on music?
Right, yes. There's like a constant noise happening. Always. And I watched it with my headphones on because I didn't want people, listening to it or whatever. So I really heard everything. And I noticed loads of noise and all these different things happening in the background. And it's funny, when I came to research it, I read, and I quote, sound engineer Ren Kleiss and Fincher inserted frequent diegetic background noises, such as rain or screaming, to create a psychological impression that terrifying things are occurring off-screen, even when the audience cannot see or escape it.
Well, I can't say that I've heard it, but it's so well done that you could. I'm going, yeah. The whole movie felt like a scream.
It puts you on edge all the time.
If I knew that was what New York was like, I would not want to go.
I would never go.
I've been a few times. I love it, but it was not like that. The brothels I went to were had nicer lighting
and better
no
dildos.
9 Inch Nails playing. Oh, God. Right, let's talk about some things we want to talk about, which is only 10% of the podcast.
The thing is, I don't want to talk about this film. I just want to talk about anything but this film.
That's going on the trailer. On the show notes, I put little mini headlines on my little talking points, which dates back to my career as a journalist, I think. This one I've just put not a movie. This doesn't feel like a movie to me. It's intimidating from the start. It's not glamorous. All the people in this movie don't want to be there or do the jobs they're doing.
Yeah.
And I keep saying
bit
old
like
movies feel more like documentaries. Yeah. One, there's a podcast host talking about a movie he hates watching. And it just has this really immersive thing going on for it. It doesn't stand out as being a movie. I'm just so living it. Mm-hmm. All my senses are fucking hating the experience.
You said you were going to touch on why it was worse as a rewatch for you earlier. Why is that?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
I think once you've seen the film and you know what happens, then when you rewatch it, every little thing stands out and you know what it's building to. So it gets more horrific with each rewatch. You know what Doe's referring to in the car when he talks about, I can't wait for you to see. It's a fucking head in the box. And then you got the dramatic irony of seeing Mills in the car thinking he has the power and nothing to worry about. So he's talking shit to John Doe.
Yeah.
When John Doe has already ruined his life.
Yes.
That is so powerful. And when you see any of the people that you see, whether they're victims or killers or whoever, you know the fucking hell they've been through or going through or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's a moment like when Kevin Spacey turns up as the press photographer. If this is your first watch in the movie, it means nothing. Random press photographer turns up, takes a picture, fucks off. If this is your second watch or more, you're like, he's just given that guy his name so he can go and find his wife and kill her. Mills volunteers his own tragedy in a way. Maybe John Doe would have found out and done all that stuff anyway. But the fact he just goes and he says to himself, my name's fucking Detective Mills, fucking do what you want with it.
Yeah.
And he does. He chops his pregnant wife's head off. Puts it in the box.
Oh, God.
While we're on the box and the head, some people on the internet like to tell you that they can see the head in the box. There never was a head in a box.
No.
Funnily enough, Gwyneth Paltrow quite liked hers. Apparently there was like a wig or something in a box, according to David Fincher, I think he said. So at best, there's a wig.
I mean, I don't think you could ever show it because it's not A, because it's horrific, but B, just because it would ruin the suspense. It'd become a horror film then, wouldn't it? Whereas if you don't show it, it's still on psychological thriller kind of territory.
It's more horrific. It's like Jaws.
Yeah.
Jaws was more powerful when you didn't see the shark.
Yes, absolutely. As is any sort of horror film or found footage film. If you don't see the thing that's chasing you, it's more horrific. It's when you see the thing that's revealed. We know what it is now.
Before we get on to the end of the movie and talk about it properly, is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I had a hard time watching it the first time round, and it's not got any easier at all. It's depressing, it's dark, it's twisted, it's every kind of fucked up you could have in a movie other than The Human Centipede. I'm wondering if they got the same rain company that did Blade Runner.
If you were an 80s rain provider, you were quizzing, weren't you?
You were, weren't you? It's like, I just got off the back of this one. I'm going to do this one. Upon rewatch, great film. But uncomfortable. We'll get there. We'll get there. Tease it.
I'm intrigued now because I know how much you were so resistant to watching this.
Yes. And to be honest, I'm probably never going to watch it again if I don't have to record another podcast or some sort of review thing for someone, unless someone gets on Patreon and says, I'll give you £5 to watch it again, in which case I'll say, yeah.
Maybe they'll pay us to do a commentary.
Oh, God. No.
Whoa.
Please, no.
Right, let's talk about the end of the movie.
Yeah, go on, tell me.
The tension when he opens the box and we don't see what it is, but Somerset panics and like the music rises and he's like, John Doe has the... No, I can't. I won't do the voice.
That kind of thing really pisses me off. Goodbye, John Burton.
The head's in the box, Mr. Button. Fuck. Remember how scared we were about actually doing the voice on Big Trouble in Little China? We just don't care now, do we? Mr. Button.
Sorry.
Oh dear. It's gone. He's
totally gone. Absolutely gone. What's in the box, Mr. Button? What's in the box? What's in the box?
Oh, God. So Morgan Freeman opens the box and he says, John Doe has the upper hand. And then you're like, what the fuck?
What does that mean?
The dialogue exchanges are really disturbing and it's quite a lot of mental trauma at this point. And again, it's the actors on screen doing absolutely all the work. Like, you could just have this all as one shot, no cuts, and these guys would make this fucking amazing. We don't see the head in the box. We should not see the heading in the box. We don't need it. It would make it worse. They play it perfectly. And then when Mills shoots John Doe, Somerset just stands there still. There's there's no trying to stop it.
No, it's
perfect.
It's gonna happen either way. Yeah.
Perfect. Then we get the somebody call somebody. And the movie could have ended after the shooting. You could have almost gone bang, the end. And I understand at one point that was how it was going to end. But then we get this very small epilogue of Mills in the police car and they say they'll look after him. Somerset quotes Ernest Hemingway and it ends on this sort of half beat of optimism about the world being worth fighting for.
Yeah.
Then we get the end credits and they're fucked up as well because they're going down rather than up.
Yeah, right.
And the alignment is all over the place. But let's talk about that ending first of all, because there are some alternate endings.
Okay.
Sort of. How do you feel about the ending?
It's the classic ending that everybody knows and probably doesn't love. The suspense is mental. It's all horrible and it all culminates a very horrible film ending in a very horrible way. There's nothing about it that's nice at all. It's just all horrible.
I think when I first watched this, it's almost like the end of Empire Strikes Back. Ding, ding. The movie ends and you're like, what? Can't end like that. There's got to be more to this.
I don't know how the Empire Strikes Back ends.
Oh, God.
Is that where his dad cuts his hand off or something?
That is towards the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Spoiler.
Yeah. But it's a you don't get many movies that end on this kind of note. And there was some alternative endings that I think the studio were keen on to try and get around the fact that it was quite fucking dark. One was that Somerset was going to kill John Doe to save Mills's career and all this kind of stuff, because he's retiring anyway. Yeah. The other one was that Somerset was going to shoot John Doe, but then Mills shoots Somerset so he can't shoot John Doe and all this kind of thing.
That'd be weird.
Ultimately, I mean, I remember when I got this on DVD back in, I mean, it probably was late 90s. And I was excited because I saw on the back of the box, alternate ending. And I thought, brilliant, there's going to be a happy ending version. No, there isn't. There's no fucking happy ending. All the alternate endings are fucking miserable.
They're all brutal, right? Yeah, it's not they fly off into the sunset and what have you endings. No.
Favourite scenes and lines. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, go on then. I don't have any favourite scenes or lines.
like me with Blade Runner.
I can tell you some that stood out. It's a horrible line. It's all horrible. The whole film's horrible. But it's certainly a notable line and made me, I don't know what it did. It didn't make me laugh, but it made me notice it. And it was after the library scene, and when he's reading the Dante research, and he's sitting in his car. This is Detective Mills reading it in the car, and he says, fucking Dante. He says, goddamn poetry writing faggot piece of shit. It's like, mate, that's no way to talk about Dante Allegro. It's, in the Divine Comedy, it's a classic piece of Italian literature, but it really shows who his character is. He's got no time for any of this shit.
Well, a homophobe, apparently.
And massive homophobe. It's like, oh, God. And it's just like, oh, that kind of, just those words don't really work anymore. It's like, oh, it makes me feel a little uncomfortable. But it definitely stood out.
But Brad Pitt's delivery of it is done so well. It's so natural. It's just an angry guy who in reality probably isn't a homophobe, but in the time,
yeah, no, it definitely stood out to me as a scene. I love the dynamics of the dinner party. It's about the only part of the film that's kind of nice, because it's nicely lit. You're round. It is though. It is. It's you're in their house and they've just moved in, or they're still unpacking boxes, and it's still very much a new home for them. She's lovely and bright and breezy. The dynamics of Mill's wife and Somerset are very comfortable. They know how to interact with each other. They know how to behave at dinner parties. It clearly shows. But Mills literally hasn't got a clue. He's always slouching in his chair. He's got his beer. Doesn't really know how to act. Whereas Mill's wife and Somerset know how to converse. There's nice jazz in the background. She's tried to make a nice impression. You sort of see them sitting down on the sofa or on the chairs talking about the case and what have you, and it feels like they're bonding a little bit in this moment. As they do, they get closer and closer throughout the film. I really like that scene.
It's the only scene in the whole movie that has any warmth.
Yes.
It might even be lit warm compared to the rest of the movie, but it has this nice coziness about it. Even when they're talking about the case, that it feels positive. Like, it's like, fuck, I've got a thing, and like there's an upbeatness to it.
Yeah.
Brief. Hold on to it.
I know, it's literally the only nice bit of the film that I take away from that.
And actually, that makes the tragedy of the ending even more powerful by having that warm moment with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Because she's lovely, and you immediately like her character, and when they meet up and she tells him that she's pregnant in the diner, I mean, everything makes you feel lovely for this character. She's such a lovely character, and then suddenly, she's in the box. Or bits of her are, anyway.
Some of her are.
Yeah. I really like... No, I don't like. Sorry, I'll keep using that word. I have an appreciation for the very last scene right at the end. And the captain turns around and says, we'll take care of him. And then he says, where are you going to be? And someone says, around. Oh, Christ, around. And it just really underscores the hopelessness of this city. You can't retire. Oh, God, Christ, that's it. He's going to go to an insane asylum because he's sending his wife's head in a box, and no, I'll be around.
There was an additional beginning of this movie in which Somerset was at like this remote country house that I think the vibe was that's where he was going to retire to. I think he cuts a bit of wallpaper off the wall with his knife. And there are bits of it throughout the movie that sort of are still left in there. So that's interesting, but it's not in there, so I don't really want to talk about it too much.
The precinct captain is R. Lee Ermey, better known as the drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket.
Oh,
Private Pyle, I bet you could suck a golf ball through a garden hose. Being the immortal line. You got any favourite lines?
Funny enough, there's a police chiefy one for me. It's a brief moment of levity where I think he's in the police house. What do you call it? Police
station? The precinct.
Station.
The precincts?
Precinct. Yeah.
Is that, they call them precincts, don't they, in America?
So we're in the precinct.
Police house.
What? Couldn't think of the word. Yeah, I know, right? And the police chief answers the phone and he just says, "This isn't even my desk." Such, like, I mean, you need whatever humour you can get in the darkness of this movie.
You really do, don't you?
But yeah, it would so easily not work as well. And it does, he makes it work. He fucking nails that line. One of my favourite scenes is, oh man, this movie is so messed up. That when you see the guy, the sloth victim.
Oh God, no.
And you see the photos of him and they're like, these photos are a year old. And then, he's alive.
Oh
and,
God, yeah.
That is the thing. Yeah. So I'm going to compare this to, I had a discussion once with someone about the Blair Witch Project, who said the Blair Witch Project wasn't in any way scary. And my conclusion to that was they weren't the smartest person in the world. And I don't think they understood the subtleties of the psychology that goes on in that movie. And I think it's a bit the same here in that if you really think about what's going on in this scene, I mean, you don't have to think that hard, but fuck me, the hell that this guy would have gone through is, well, it's hellish. Another one of my favourite parts of this movie, because you can't really have any other favourite scene in this movie other than the head in the box, which is just another level iconic, right?
Yeah,
so it's just picking some other bits out
of course,
that are standouts. And one for me is at the end, you've got John Doe and they've taken him out to the desert and you see a dead dog by the side of the road and Kevin Spacey just goes, "I didn't do that." like he's just under suspicion for everything. Yeah. But, you know, heaven forbid that goes on his charge sheet.
Yeah.
There's just brilliant moments in this movie. It's just wonderful, and I don't know how they weave it all together.
Wonderful.
Let's move on to trivia.
My God.
While we're talking about the sloth victim, the makeup on that guy took 6 or 7 hours, according to David Fincher.
Jesus.
His call time was something like midnight just to be able to shoot the following day. And then they had to transport him in this, like, what he described as like a refrigerated Medivac unit, and would be carried in on the bed that had all the wires and the tubes on it to make all the stuff work. And there was like this rumor went round that they kept it a secret that he was going to be an actual actor who was going to be alive from like the SWAT guys that react to him, so they could have their reactions be more genuine.
Like in Alien.
Yeah, but it's not true. Like it's just fictitious.
Right.
David Fincher said it was just far too elaborate a setup to be able to keep it from anyone.
Sure.
And they did like 19 takes of it anyway, so nobody's going to be still surprised by it. And there's a lot of things that I've read on the internet. This is going to come as a shock to you, that are bullshit, and that people like David Fincher have gone, no. There's one article that said everything's to do with sevens in this movie. And there are some, but someone was like, there were 7 crates of cockroaches poured over. No, it's just, there's a lot of stuff that's just people have just made up to fit the narrative. But the actor who played the sloth guy, Michael Reed McKay, he said, and this is a quote because I've written it down, "It was a totally emotional scene. The last take, I was breathing very hard and crying."
Oh,
I mean,
right.
Good acting gig, that one, isn't it?
Isn't it just?
And if you think that's bad, I've got another one.
Go for it.
The gluttony guy, so the big fat guy.
Oh, yeah.
Can we say fat? So David Fincher said on the DVD commentary that he felt really bad for the actor who played the gluttony corpse, whose name was Bob Mack, and he weighed 480 pounds.
I'm not sure what that is in kilos. I don't actually understand pounds at all.
I can tell you this much. It's a fucking lot.
That's a lot, isn't it? That is quite a few pounds, isn't it? Yeah.
Anyway, so he's playing this character on screen who's dead and naked, and he had to apparently wear an awful lot of prosthetics. I don't know what prosthetics you wear as a naked fat man, but anyway. And he had to have them on for 10 hours at a time before shooting would even begin. So to sort of compensate him for that and what he had to go through, David Fincher gave the actual corpse that then takes his place when they're doing the autopsy, which is apparently a fiberglass dummy, they gave this corpse a massive cock. Thank you for your service on the movie. I know it was tough being a naked fat guy, but you've got a massive cock in the dead scene.
Oh my God.
In the morgue.
That's hilarious.
Massive penis.
It's 217 kilograms.
Okay, so 217 bags of sugar.
That is a lot.
Imagine that's your gig, that's your acting gig, and then get on the set and you see the call sheet and it says next to your name, cockroach wrangler.
Oh God!
And they had to apparently put a whole crate of cockroaches onto him, and he didn't have any idea until he got there. Apparently, that may be an exaggeration as well. For all I know,
you wouldn't just like turn up to set and start having cockroaches put on you. I'm not sure I could deal with that.
Well, apparently there was another guy who had to be naked in a chair. I can't remember. It wasn't the fat guy. It was someone else. But he apparently turned up. The lawyer. There's a lawyer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, apparently he didn't know he was going to be pretty much naked until he got there either. He just thought he was playing a lawyer or something. But again, the gluttony guy with the cockroaches, they had to put guards in his ears and nose to stop them going everywhere. Mm-hmm. And Brad Pitt apparently was flicking them off him in between takes.
Oh, God.
Good old Brad Pitt.
Cockroach flicker.
Cockroach flicker. I'm talking about Brad Pitt. It's a lovely little segue. The original ending, so they had Brad Pitt for 58 days for the shoot.
Yeah.
And then he left because he had to go and do 9 Monkeys, I think it was.
Oh, wow. That's a great film.
And when they were out in that rural location at the end, they edited all that together without all the helicopter shots that you see. So the test screenings that they put out, it just said scene missing because the studio refused to pay for them. And David Fincher said that the studio didn't think they were necessary. And so they were this sort of reward that if they stayed in budget and on time, they'd probably give them the money to go and reshoot these bits that they want to add in. But at this point, like Brad Pitt's fucked off and they then get approval to get the helicopter scene. And then Brad comes back and I think he had like 9 days of pickups or something.
Okay.
9 days of pickups after 9 Monkeys. Is that right? Or have I just inserted a number there that's not true?
Don't know.
Doesn't matter. Brad Pitt came back. But if you look closely, you can see pre-9 Monkeys Brad Pitt and post-9 Monkeys Brad Pitt. Very subtle differences, apparently, in his appearance.
Interesting.
The last note I've got on the trivia, it's not really a trivia, but I've headlined this Storytelling Rain because it's raining throughout the entire movie except on that last day, which, as you know, as a avid reader that you are of such works, you will know parallels the story in Dante's Inferno.
Indeed, on the last level.
We're coming to the end. It's time to do some rankings. Before we rank it, do you want to do like an overall wrap up on what you thought of it?
Oh, I fucking hated it. I mean, that's an overall wrap up of it. I mean, oh man,
just to balance that, I fucking loved it.
Why? Right, tell me why. Tell me why you love this movie.
It made me think about like when you said you were scared to watch it, and you're not the only person to say that, like about how fucked up it is. It makes me question why I like it.
Exactly. It makes me question why we're friends.
Yeah. But it is one of the most immersive movies I think I've ever seen. And it's always intimidating and scary. And you don't want to be anywhere near it. Like, it's a fantasy place in a movie that you don't ever want to end up in. And like you said, Blade Runner was meant to be uncomfortable to me.
Yeah.
Right? That's what this is for me. Like, I love a whodunit. I love a psychological thriller. This is the best of its kind. This is creme de la creme. And the 7 Deadly Sins element of it is just such a wonderful spine to a movie that just it has this constant foreshadowing. You don't have a movie called Seven and there's only going to be 3 murders.
No.
The movie's paced out for you. And then, like I said, once you've seen the ending, it's instantly one of the most memorable movies ever. Don't like it, you're going to remember it.
I think when you say it's a really immersive film, and it's a very immersive film for you, I think that's what Blade Runner is to me. And I don't get it with this film. I understand what you're saying, however, but it's just too fucked up for me, this one, to even remotely enjoy or...
Oh, you don't enjoy it?
No, not even vaguely. No. And the thing is, we've had a bit of a delay for recording this for one reason or another. We've basically been all over the world doing our respective jobs that we do. We've been everywhere to 7 corners of the world, and we've not really had a chance to record it. So we watched this about a month ago or 3 weeks ago.
I did all my research about a month ago.
Yeah, and I took a load of notes and watched the film, and then I thought, right, okay, what I'll do is I'll rewatch it closer to the time, and that time was today, and I couldn't bring myself. Like, I started to skip through some bits. It's like, actually, no, I don't need to do this. I can probably remember enough of it. I don't want to see any part of it again.
I was typing up some notes, and I often like to listen to the soundtrack while like doing some research, right? Keeps me in the headspace.
Mm-hmm.
So I put on the Seven soundtrack while doing this by Howard Shore, which we should have mentioned earlier.
Yep.
Fuck me, I got a couple of minutes in and was like, nah, can't do this. You like Blade Runner, but you're not going to listen to it in your car.
You're not.
I ain't listening to this anywhere.
I wonder if someone's going to comment on that. Probably, if they listen to it in their car, probably not going to want to interact with them on a human level, to be honest.
Mate, if someone comments on this and says, I love that soundtrack, I listen to it all the time, you are fucking weird.
Yeah.
Give the police your address.
Yeah. What are you going to rank this film, Gareth?
This is going to be really interesting.
This is. I'm interested. I am genuinely now the most interested I think I've been to know what your opinion is.
This could be the furthest apart we've ever been. I'm giving it an S tier.
Oh, no. God. Christ. Why? Oh, God.
Yeah. All the way to the top, baby.
Oh, God. I'm going to question our friendship. You see,
I think there's only one rating you can give this.
Well, it was going to be a D, right? Before I even started watching it, I was like, no, it's D. And I don't even want to entertain watching this film. Having watched it, and I can't, I hate the film. I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable in all the worst possible ways, and I'm a pretty bad person anyway, and the jokes I like and the kind of comedy I like, but this is just another level of no. But I appreciate the cinematography. I appreciate the work that's gone into it. I can see the sound, the lighting, what's been done to make it that uncomfortable. So I can't totally hate the film and the filmmaking process, which is, I have to admit, superb. It is very well done. It is very well written because it is horrific, and it has stayed in our minds. It has, it's not, even to this day, it's got a huge following. I'm going to give it a B.
Okay,
because
I think that's very kind of you.
I dislike the film massively, but it is supremely well made.
What I'm hearing from you is you appreciate all the hard work and skill that's gone into it from the creators, but you can't stand the subject matter.
Exactly that. Exactly. In a nutshell. This is me in a nutshell. How did I get in this nutshell?
Very good. There we go.
Yes.
Oh, that was fun.
It wasn't.
It was fun, wasn't it, AJ?
No. Let's never do this again. I'm glad it's over. Can we move on to something better?
Do you mean the podcast?
Well, to be honest. No, I'm joking. Of course,
we
I
should
love
acknowledge, before we close out this episode, we probably should thank everyone that has watched, listened, liked on social media, commented, subscribed, any of those things that they've done to actively engage with us.
I'm going to question why, quite frankly. But
what have you got nothing better to do than this?
I mean, thanks.
But thank you to everyone, because this week we have been number one in some Apple Podcast charts around the world.
Which is mental, really. I mean, I'm blown away. I am genuinely. No, honestly, everyone that's listened and commented or done the things on the different social media that I know nothing about, thank you very much. It's a pleasure that you invite us into your homes, either orally or visually.
Oh, as things stand right now, I've just looked it up. We're in a few charts, but oh god, we just popped into the Japanese Apple Podcast charts for film history at number 18. How bizarre. Number 6, UK Film History Chart. Excellent. Thank you, everyone.
That's mental. Number 6.
Right, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with a movie from, again, 1995. And AJ is going to give us a little clue.
It's all about a nuclear submarine that turns into a floating powder keg when two stubborn captains argue over World War III like it's a really bad office dispute. Please leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice. You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, MySpace, at Rewind Classic Movies. If you want to drop us an email, it's rewindclassicmovies@gmail.com.
In the meantime, if you want to listen to more things about Seven, AJ won't be listening to this.
Yeah, this will be one I'm going to not listen to at all. It's like, nope, don't need to know anymore.
If you want to listen to more things about Seven, I'll be doing a fast forward episode to look at what happened after this movie came out. It's not a lot, But this is interesting because it includes a movie that was made with a huge cast that was meant to be a Seven sequel, but it isn't. And also, probably some David Fincher movies, because this is the first movie we've done where there's no real follow-ups, so that'll be a nice challenge. And that'll be out next week. Say goodbye, AJ.
Goodbye.
Microphone's sounding better. I like it.